Hi everyone, welcome to Chapter 8 of my Fire Emblem 6 LTC playthrough. I'm Lord Raven, and today I'm joined by Irysa.
Hi!
Yeah, so this is a very long map. As you notice, we're taking out a whole bunch of our infantry units and replacing them with mounted units, because there is a lot of ground to cover in this map.
Oh yes, definitely. This is by far the longest map in the whole game. It's something ridiculous, like 13 turns. Infantry units here are just basically baggage to be carried around. They simply have no chance of keeping up normally.
Yeah, I mean, it's already an issue because we gotta have Saul do a lot in this chapter. He needs to be carried around, and if we have any more than just Rutger, then it's kind of an issue. Even Rutger himself doesn't really see much use in this chapter because this might be one of the last times we see him, so enjoy that while it lasts.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I do like Rutger quite a lot, but he's not very helpful in this playthrough overall because his niche as a boss-killing unit is pretty much entirely obsoleted by a very well-trained Cavalier. In this case, it's Lance. I prefer to use Alan, but well, that's a different matter. Roy obviously has to be ferried around as well, but that's business as usual, really.
Yeah.
One of the things about this map that I find kind of frustrating is that it's just so long that I found it very difficult to plan ahead just where people were going to be at every single point. Because when you have to think like so many turns ahead, there's almost no way to reasonably plan out exactly where people are going to be. You simply have to just play it out and then have a general idea of where people are about each turn. Because it's like I can't look at the map and just assume oh, I'm going to be about there on the specific turn or so. There's no real way to gauge it effectively.
Yeah, you can't really gauge it until you're like halfway through the chapter and you realize that you miss a tile or something, and then you gotta do stuff. And speaking of tiles, we have Marcus and Zealot at the front of the formation, and I remember talking last chapter with Mecha about how we needed another 8-move unit, and this is the first time that we'll be seeing 2 8-move units in action, and it's actually, if both of them move their full move in every single turn, then we reach the treasure at the end. But what are the issues with moving with full move? Like, why is that so difficult?
Oh, that's because somehow those soldiers, as sparsely spread out as they are, they somehow manage to always get in the way. It's crazy because, I mean, you just wouldn't imagine it when you look at the map for the first time, but they always manage to get into exactly the choke point that you don't want them to be in. And so there, we have to do stupid stuff like rely on Zealot critting a guy at range because he unfortunately doesn't have enough strength to one-round those soldiers, because those soldiers, as well as getting in the way so much, they have an absolute buttload of HP. So they're extremely difficult to one-round KO, even for some of our strongest units.
Well, at least that soldier will feed off himself the next turn anyway. That's not that big a deal. But yeah, these soldiers are super bulky. They hit pretty hard, even though their accuracy isn't the best. But technically, this is the last we see of them. Because I am very sick of seeing soldiers by this point, and I'm pretty sure when you finished the chapter, you were relieved too.
Oh yeah, I was relieved, but I actually quite like the enemy design rather the way the stats work for the soldiers. I find them to be I suppose it comes from a hindsight perspective, because the soldiers are just a joke in just about every Fire Emblem game, really. So it's nice to have a game where they're kind of annoying and actually somewhat assertive in terms of in terms of how they can affect your strategies and stuff, as opposed to just being, well, it's a soldier, who cares,
Right. So in this chapter, we got a bunch of new units. Some of them are coming later, but right now, the one you might notice is Lilina, and she's the daughter of Hector from Fire Emblem 7. Lilina is pretty well known to be a very hard-hitting mage, and she doesn't have much speed or skill or any of that. She just has a whole ton of magic. But what kind of danger does she face over there?
Oh, well, you see, yes. I'm glad you mentioned it, because we almost forgot to point it out, unfortunately. But you see that archer that Sue's been distracting, he was actually told to kill Lilina early on this map, but as you'll see after this turn ends, he pretty much just forgets to do it after he was distracted for a little bit after shooting through the wall. And she's perfectly safe. She does get one-round KO'd by him, but you can do various things to help keep her alive until you get over there to protect her. Marcus faces a little bit of a chance of death here because that knight has a horse slayer, which is pretty strong in this game. I mean, it's not terribly accurate, but 3x effectiveness is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, you'll be seeing a whole bunch of horse slayer knights like that. Knights are normally effectively useless, but when they get in your way like this, and they're already kind of hard to kill, they're really just a massive pain in the ass to deal with, even though ours are completely ineffective.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, but I was just going to say that knights really are like an enemy class in many respects. Like, they always seem to be so much more effective in the hands of the enemy than they ever are in the hands of the player.
Right. Another unit you might have noticed that we didn't see before. We didn't deploy Chad in this chapter. Instead, we got Astal, who he's a superior unit to Chad in every way possible. He starts out with higher base speed. He actually has passable combat. Relatively speaking, he's still a thief, so don't get your hopes up. But he has superior speed, so he can dodge things better, and he has significantly more durability. So now that we have Astal, what do you think of thieves in this game?
Oh, it's kind of interesting, really, because one of the other cool things about Astal is he has C and swords, and that's a large part of why he has quite decent combat. Because having 6 movement and being able to use killing edges and the light brand and stuff like that, that actually comes in handy quite a few times. But yeah, as for thieves in this game, it's somewhat interesting to note because enemies can't drop items in this game, unlike like later installments in the series. If an enemy has an item, it has to be stolen, which in a way ups the value of thieves. But simultaneously, chest keys are extremely abundant, so thieves' utility in actually opening chests and doors is somewhat lower than it would be normally. But as I said before, the stealing utility is much more apparent as a result.
Although somewhat ironically, he just stole a chest key. So,
yeah.
like...
Yes, that's true. He obsoletes himself by doing his niche utility.
Yeah, but it still helps us out later to have thieves plus chest keys. Mainly in this chapter, because first of all, chest keys are pretty expensive. They're 1,500 gold, so they're not something that we can pretty readily buy. And like,
we
if
need
we
every
can,
bit of money in this game for the end game, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about thieves in this game is that they're not hindered by speed in terms of with respect to stealing. In other games, you need to have a higher speed, and in like the Radiance games, you also need to have a higher strength than the weapon weight that you're stealing. In this game, like, you can only steal items, but it's not limited by your speed, so that makes it a lot easier to steal items than, say, like Narshan later on, who definitely has more speed than your untrained thieves. We get 3 new units on this turn, and they're all pretty unspectacular. Why are they unspectacular?
Oh, well, Wendy. She's pretty much infamous for being probably the worst unit in Fire Emblem, period. Her base stats are just so awful, and she's a lance-locked 4-move unit in a game that happens to have terrible accuracy for decently high, strong lances. So she's going to be stuck using iron lances forever. She can't rely on using javelins to chip enemies. And what to make matters worse, we're about to come up to a huge amount of axes. So there's almost no redeeming value to Wendy whatsoever. I mean, her promotion bonuses are actually pretty good, but like, if you can ever get her to level 10, it's almost impossible, really, unless you abuse the triangle attack, which is actually, I think this is the only game where there are 2 triangle attacks as well.
Right. Yeah. And one interesting thing about this map is that in the middle, there's a whole bunch of enemies congregated there, but we decided to not deal with them at all, and those aren't the only issues with going through that corridor. The other part is that we have a whole bunch of mages ready to snipe us in this very, very narrow corridor, and we're going to try to avoid that. So we're going to go to the chest room. And what else is spectacular about the chest room?
Oh, well, first off, as you just saw it, we got our promotion items in there, which is just about on time, because Lance is pretty much primed and ready for a promotion. And in fact, he actually needs those promotion bonuses to be able to one-round KO the boss of this map. He just barely manages it with the extra 2 strength he gets. Having an extra 8-move unit is a huge boon, and it actually makes a lot of this chapter more flexible than you would initially think. Like, I mean, we said before that Marcus and Zela have to full move every single turn, but at the same time, we have a trailing group of bounties behind us, who have to like clear up enemies and do various things. But having that extra 8-move unit who can help get people into position as the the map comes to an end is very, very helpful, and it will continue to be helpful throughout the rest of the game, of course.
Yeah, and it also helps to have someone that isn't completely like dead in the water once we hit the mid game, because Lance, like once he promotes, which you'll be seeing in the next 2 seconds or so. Once he promotes, he'll have basically twice the combat parameters of Marcus and Zealot, and like he'll basically be one of our primary boss killers. And now, because we're screwing the middle, we're not dealing with the middle at all. We're just going to use that to help some of our other units in the back that are trailing get some experience, and that's actually where Rutger comes in, because he's kind of bad, but he also helps weaken enemies because he doesn't kill anything with an iron sword. I don't think anyone really does. And look at those stats.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. No, this is also a really nice rescue chain as well for Roy. Getting him all the way up here, assassin. Like, I'm pretty sure he just covered like half the map. But yeah, rescue chains are also a great thing to utilize on this map. Just dropping people around all over the place. I mean, the thing is that I did complain earlier about the map, but I do quite like just how good rescue dropping is on this map. It's like one of the maps that like really incentivizes you to do it, or else you're going to be like stuck, wasting turns a lot of the time. This is also a good opportunity to get Sue some EXP, because there are mages sitting through the wall, as we pointed before, that can be quite annoying or dangerous even. They actually hit quite hard, but since Sue is a bullock unit, she can get some pretty good enemy phase by simply standing on the other side of the wall, which we'll see shortly. It's a good way to train her, because we do need to go to Sake in order to be able to get the lowest possible turn counts.
Yeah, and one thing about those mages though is that one of them has an air caliber tome, which it's kind of a stupid name, but it's basically a weaker version of Excalibur from every other Fire Emblem game, and it can do a whole bunch of damage to Thaini, and Thaini needs you'll see in the next chapter, but Thaini actually needs as much experience as possible right now to make sure that certain things from here on out go smoothly. So Sue actually helps us take care of that air caliber mage incredibly well, because now Thaini isn't risking death, and it's also great that we can keep Thaini back and have just Lance deal with everything over there, because we really just don't want Thaini to be in any danger right now at all.
Yeah, she's still pretty fragile on your run. I mean, I rigged her like an insane amount of defensive parameters, so she's pretty much more durable than like anybody else almost. I mean, I think on my run of this map, I actually had her like even further ahead than Marcus and Zela were, and enemies would just ignore her and attack Marcus and Zela instead.
Yeah.
She was just so tanky. It was crazy.
Yeah. So you might notice a couple weird things here. First of all, Lance is carrying Alan for some strange reason. Oh, and Lilina gets a Thunder Tome. But I also don't get...
Nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, I don't really grab every single chest over there. Why is that so... Why don't I do any of that?
Because we're about to see, as you can see right now, we've got these 2 thief reinforcements appearing. One of them is our recruitable cat. And just there's a lot to cover in terms of these people, because they actually affect quite a lot of the map. Because first off, when they spawn, like most enemies that spawn in this game, they move because they start move at the sorry, I'm muddling on.
They move on enemy phase.
Yes, they move at the start. They appear at the start, so they can move on enemy phase. Now, so that means they can actually block the corridor, which is a big no-no for the rest of our units, because it means we can't actually get through there fast enough, which is a big no-no. So that's why Alan has to be dropped there in the first place. As for the chest room also has to be actually have a chest that can still be opened within it. Otherwise, their thief AI will send them to the left side of the map, where there are more chests, instead of sending them to the center. And we want Kat to actually head towards the center so that Roy can talk to her, which he just did on this turn. And finally, the other thing about those thieves is that we won't be able to steal their lockpicks with Astor, because that's even more money.
Yeah, the lockpicks actually sell for quite a lot in this game, so it helps to steal every single lockpick we can get, because, I mean, we're not really going to be using them, but selling them is, like, it's just a waste to it's just a waste to just kill these thieves, like, completely without stealing their stuff. We also need to get Lilina some experience. We were talking some trash about Lilina earlier, So why are we like just getting her some experience right there?
Oh well, she turns out to be very important in a very obscure way, and I don't really want to go into exact detail of exactly how she manages to be useful, but rest assured, it's something that is so bizarre that, and the way that she ends up saving a turn, that it's no surprise that everybody thought she was terrible for so long.
Yeah, it was, and don't get us wrong, she is pretty terrible, especially in her average stats. But like, she has some really, really strange niche uses in this playthrough that like, it'll make you laugh. Lance kills his boss finally. He just barely gets the 1 round KO. Uh, he does 21 damage times 2 against the 41 HP boss. And now we're unlocking some chests to get this guiding
Promotion
ring.
items.
Yeah, to get this guiding ring and an Elysian whip, promotion items. You guys see what's coming. And then that's chapter 8 in 13 turns, and I'll see you guys next time.
Later.